Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Feel Good Fridays. Coming live straight at you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, your hosts, Polly and Bags. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Feel Good Fridays. I'm Polly.
No Bags.
And today, folks, we're going to talk about a level of leadership that we find truly important. As you hear every single week, right? There's a lot of different levels in leadership, and really every single one of them is important. But today, Bags, what are we going to get into today?
Polly, today we're going to talk about listening. You got two of these bad boys, I say, and one of those, listening to understand, which is easier said than done.
No, absolutely. And I'll start off by just sharing a personal, experience, as recent as, 3 years ago, right? Where you take over a new team and you're really trying to get to know everyone on a personal level and get their names, if there's spouses or significant others, their kids, their dogs. And, you ask them these questions and then a couple weeks later, you're trying to remember their names and you forget, right? What did you say your wife's name was again? And it's just an awkward moment between you and a member of your team. It's like, hey, we just had, I told you like three weeks ago. I guess when I told you it wasn't that important. Like, why are you asking me again? So, some ways that you can kind of overcome that, and I learned it from you actually, Bags, was utilize the notes inside your iPhone, right? Utilize the notes, jot it down, and just tell them, hey, I'm just taking note of it, and I don't want to forget. Or you can even wait until after the conversation, when you're away from them, go to your notes, input their wife's name, their significant other's name, their kid's name, their dog's name. So then, 3 weeks later or a month later, right? Because sometimes our areas are quite large and we don't get to see everyone every single day or every single week for that matter, is you can look at your notes real quick and then give them a call, or next time you run into them, like, hey, how's Mindy doing, man? How's she doing? So I think taking the notes, taking the time to write those notes goes a long way.
No, that's a great point, Paul. And I think a lot of times what I do is when I meet somebody brand new, they introduce their name to you, and then I'm sitting there and I'm thinking first impression, and I don't even know what their name is. So something I challenge myself is if somebody introduces themselves to me, I always try to think about someone else I know with the same exact name. So that way it's the same name as my cousin or the same name as my neighbor or whatever it might be. So that way I can remember the person's name. So I'm like, wait, you just told me your name like 5 seconds ago, and I was not paying attention, right? So that's one of those key things is when you introduce somebody. But I think one of the biggest challenges, Paul, is leaders is we think we got to know all the solutions. So if we hear the same beginning of a story from multiple people, we just want to give that answer right away instead of letting that person divulge all the information, take it all in, and, provide them a solution from there. So a lot of times we want to feel like we're leaders. We have to get that answer out right away because we got 10,000 other things to get done. But sometimes you just got to put the cell phone to the side, the laptop, shut it down, and really truly understand what that person's problem is. Because you might think you know the answer, but until you find out the whole story, it could totally go in a different way that you might have not understood if you just didn't take the time to listen. And plus, it shows that you care. So just some of those things I think is as challenging as a leader as it is, you want to give those answers as quickly as possible, but you just got to pump the brakes, put an apple in your mouth so you can't say anything, and just listen to that person talking in front of you.
Now you bring up a good point, and ties into kind of development too, right? Because, as a leader, you may know quite a bit of the answers to your team's, issues or scenarios that they bring you. Sometimes it's okay to just pretend like you don't know, right? Have them review the scenario with you, even though you know the answer. Act like you don't. It goes a long way. Give them that feeling of, oh, wow, I actually figured it out on my own, right? Goes a long way. Trust me.
That's a good point, man. Well, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think the answer is, or what do you think the solution should be? Allow them the ability to build that autonomy to work through things and feel like they have a voice and they can, think on the top of their 2 feet instead of being spoon-fed, which I think a lot of times is something as leaders we got to recognize because our people will keep coming to us. And how do you develop them to solve it on their own so you can work on those other things you have going on? Is like you said, Paul, let them figure out the solution. And if they don't quite know it, I know we've had this conversation. I'll help guide them to the correct answer if maybe they're a little off or far off from what they think is the right way to handle the situation.
Yeah, asking more questions. And big one for leaders too is if a problem is presented to you, it's listening to all sides of the scenario, right? Because we know somewhere in the middle lies the truth, right? So listening to understand, listening before responding, all great takeaways and great best practices. But however, that's a wrap for us today. We want to hear from you. What's some best tips, tricks, ways that you kind of listen to understand or listen with intent? We always like to learn, like to hear from you. If you missed any of our previous episodes, head to our YouTube channel at Feel Good Fridays podcast or by searching Paulie and Bags. We are also on the go, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your pods. We're on all kinds of platforms. So without further ado, and like every week, Bags, I want everyone out there to take care.
Let it rain. My grass needs it.
Let's go.
Thank you for tuning in to Feel Good Fridays. If you want to stay up to date with our podcast releases and upcoming material, please like and subscribe our YouTube channel. I'll wait. You didn't do it yet. Go ahead. I'm still waiting. Could you do it? Definitely check us out on our TikTok for special announcements and possible giveaways. Both can be found by searching at Feel Good Fridays Podcast. Thank you, and make it a great day.